One of the most debated and controversial topics of the modern global society is a topic related to the end of the world. Its alleged inevitable occurrence seems obvious in line of various prophecies, esoteric revelations, and even scientific evidence. Currently, the worldwide media is oversaturated with information regarding a numerous of apocalypses which were supposed to happen, but for some reasons never actually did. The oncoming schedule of various ends of the world is optimistically projected by many internet users way into the future, for some 3,000 years ahead. The literature and TV apocalypse and post-apocalypse shows became the most popular and even offer us to purchase a comfortable seat within an exclusive bunker. The end of the world doctrine seems obvious and convincing, unless you can feel that something is amiss here. If you really think of it, you can quickly realize that out of all the information which surrounds us, we choose only what is attracting our attention the most, often concentrating upon certain not very best emotions. The movies depicting various catastrophes, numerous Nostradamus and Vanga predictions, along with the similar information believed to come from Maya calendar, exist only due to our desire of realization and experiencing of such fears, along with artificiality and ignorance regarding possible variations of our own future. Our feelings, emotions, and individual relation towards the surrounding reality contribute to and instigate such occurrence manifestation in our lives. This isn't bad or good, it is simply what it is. Many people expect the improvement of only the outer attributes of their lives, entirely and blindly relaying their vital responsibilities onto God, a destiny, a government, various scientific discoveries, or even a career or residence change. However, a person striving for self-improvement can actually change the life circumstances which seemed negative or unfavorable at first for the better with positive thoughts, motivations, and corresponding qualitative choices. Within considerably more harmonious variations of our future, there are no destructive circumstances or dangers for a human race at all, since once we assert in a positiveness of our psychomental state, we automatically become the participants of more favorable scenarios of our own existence. So, where all our perceptions regarding the end of the world come from? What had happened with the multitude of unfulfilled end-of-the-world processes? In philosophy, the multidimensionality idea had existed from the immemorial. In ancient Greece, it was connected to the atheism of Democritus, Metrodorus of Chaos, and Epicurus. Today, the multidimensionality theory is illustrated within the most progressively developing fields of theoretical physics. That includes the many worlds interpretation, along with the superstring theory and many similar ones, also sustaining the world diversity and asserting that many entity bearing a self-awareness capability is fully immortal. This multivariant world order approach is also being one of the most fundamental axiomatic notions of the iissiidiology. All the infinity of our future development scenarios can be compared with radio waves being transmitted simultaneously. When we are listening to any particular radio station, all others supposedly don't exist for us, even though they are also being transmitted by various other radio stations at the same time. Our self-consciousness can in fact be compared with such complex configuration radio receiver transmitter device, by means of which we sort of tune onto various development scenarios of our future. So, if your radio device doesn't tune onto a particular radio channel or frequency, all you should do is slightly turn the knob tuning onto the desired frequency. It is basically the same with all possible development scenarios. If your surrounding reality ceased to be of comfort to you, simply find a motivation corresponding to your objectives and change your psychomental self-consciousness condition, thus tuning onto a desired frequency, mostly correlating to your expected development scenario. All the dynamics of surrounding space is projected into our self-consciousness like radio waves, simultaneously broadcasted by the multitude of radio stations. But after all, we don't listen to all at once. We choose out of every potential provided to us possibilities only those that attract personally us being in a certain mental state. Exactly at this moment we start to perceive ourselves in corresponding scenarios. What determines our perception of ourselves in this or that scenario? From the point of view of iissiidiology, any scenario is a process of getting experience. It is perception yourself in the concrete life circumstances. The meaning of this process is that we cannot react negatively to what already structures our self-consciousness with a deep enough experience of self-cognition and has no interest for us. The multi-world approach to the principle of our existence and surrounding us reality suggests that there always exist scenarios where we continue to perceive ourselves living, and scenarios with so-called fatal outcome. But perceive oneself dead is not possible, as it was never possible to anybody. This is because each of us at any moment of time perceives oneself only living. It's even possible to say more precisely, we are hopelessly immortal. The majority of people, when seeing a breathless corpse of the human being, say that he is dead. Actually, he continues to live further on, but in other scenarios, without even noticing the death happening to him somewhere. So, such phenomena as death is just a process of changing of one scenarios to others, representing the universal mechanism of continuous transferring of experience for our further infinite existence. It's important to always remain conscious and not to forget that absolutely everything which regards your personal life is in your own power. And it depends only on you in which form of all the multitude scenarios you will personally perceive yourselves. Being in the scenarios where exists so much far-fetched information about the so-called doomsday is mainly defined by the presence of the instinctive fear of death in people. Where does the fear of death come from? We used to identify ourselves with our visible and tangible body, and of course we are doing our best to protect, to secure, and to maintain it. As many times we were convinced what happens to bodies of people when they die. And we became confident that death is a complete disappearance of a personality. This is the main fallacy of our primitive understanding of ourselves, which in turn gives rise to desperate terror and animal fear, which we literally, continuously, though not always consciously, experience in our life. In such states, every moment we generate negativism in the information space of our self-consciousness, and then project it to the surrounding reality, thus creating main causes of endless conflicts and discord, enmity and discrepancies, murders, wars, disasters, and ends of the world. And it lasts for many, many thousands of years. In the future, the human society cannot be viable if the fear of death, constantly animating in the self-consciousness all selfish tendencies, aggressive reactions, and animals' lusts, continue to be guideline of our existence. Some of us are so seized by this fear that they are simply afraid to live. We are afraid of something just because we have not yet known ourselves in this experience quite deeply, so we attract the dynamics of that steadily expected by us event, which at the same moment is actually happening to us in some parallel scenario. Thoughts, images of what we fear become more concrete and stable, and thereby more precisely direct our focus, that is our attention, to those scenarios where there is a real opportunity to get this unpleasant but so essential for the further evolution life experience. What happens to our self-consciousness in the moment of death? We instantly become aware of ourselves in one of many of our forms, where we are simultaneously focusing in differently directed inertial dynamics of development scenarios chosen by us. It is a continuously performed process that is never interrupted for a single moment in our eternal existence, a process that is always present in our life. After any of our deaths, we continue to live in a different form of manifestation, in another world, with the development scenario which we have most resonated in the very moment of death. Just as we were busy doing something up until the instant of death, we continue to perceive ourselves within a whole new scenario where absolutely nothing we've been doing right before the death occurred actually changes, neither ourselves nor even our comfortable position we were in at that moment. You can argue that the parallel reality's existence isn't a new conception. It is indeed correct. However, what do we gain by simply knowing about this fact? For instance, what do I care even when I know that I live somewhere else, while not being able to realize myself there? And if I don't know that in reality I always exist everywhere? How can I utilize this multidimensional fact of the universal diversity? What does it mean personally for me? By filling our lives with highly intellectual, loving and benevolent surrounding reality perceptions, our own self-defining purpose and relation to everything within and around us, we annihilate all our former egoistic and ignorant perceptions regarding our perishable existence, along with dreadful imminent dangers. All these perceptions depart our personal lives, along with these our personalities, who die and perish on a daily basis. But only the surrounding observers can see that, throughout the various scenarios, while implementing the lesser qualitative choices. All their existential experience immediately becomes a constituent part of these of us who have chosen the most favorable path of a true human being, the path of highly intellectual altruism coupled with a highly altruistic intellect. In this precise development scenario, absolutely nothing which is even remotely associated with an end of the world will occur. Instead, everyone will be provided with yet more opportunities for their new constructive realization. There are hundreds of thousands of years to come, and none of us will ever even remember that something unpleasant had to occur. Within the realities of our harmonious future, there are no fears exist, because everyone understands that the lesser qualitative choices, along with negative states of mind, immediately refocuses a person into considerably less favorable scenarios. It is important to realize that every one of you always has a chance of refocusing into the more qualitative existential circumstances. However, this always requires a great deal of effort. The most important factor here is the elevation of your vital activity level to the state of absolute positiveness toward everything around you. However, such high qualitative state of self-consciousness is extremely difficult to maintain, constantly experiencing a pain, humiliation, limitedness, dependence, depression, and tiredness. To normalize and exit from these states, you should always try to find in your principal positions such motivations that could help you to positively justify still obscure situations and circumstances. Yes, so far at this level of perception, I don't understand why it's happened to me, though I think I have made my best to avoid such a situation. Or am I wrong in my assessment because of my ambition, arrogance, intolerance, criticism? What prevents me to try this one, the most self-pejorative choice which seemed to me earlier completely unacceptable? After all, it all depends on me. Thinking so, you gradually withdraw fault for a conflict situation from someone else and completely focus on the process of improving quality of your own self-consciousness, what greatly reduces the degree of your conflict attitude. And once you catch yourself on the fact that motivations that now you seem quite normal and acceptable, even a month or two ago could not be accepted by you. If your choices leave much to be desired, then your interpersonal relations and the circumstances around you will also be less than ideal or meeting your better needs. Responsibility in the relationship is the ability to meet the needs, demands, and expectations of those with whom you associate your life positively and with a deep understanding of evolutionary essence of ongoing events. If you are in a stable state of unconditional love, which allows to understand and take into account the interests of all living things, then you automatically and voluntarily, by means of your thoughts, feelings, words, and actions, lay personal responsibility on the quality of ideas that shape the reality around you. In these states, you will never doubt to sacrifice your own selfishness, pride, and ambition to the long-term development of the interpersonal relations with anyone else on a more harmonious and positive level. Because in the state of true love, you become free from all forms of selfishness, jealousy, hypocrisy, and arrogance, which are so valuable for you now and so important in relationships with others. Selfishness is the most powerful destructive force, retarding the more rapid development of positive and altruistic ideas in our self-consciousness. In doing so, you will gradually and naturally change yourself for the better, and you will eventually treat other people with more positive attitude, with more tolerance, sympathy, and with less criticism. You will start to equally value their freedom of choice as your own. If you do the same consciously, using iissiidiology knowledge, you will be able to direct your life step by step and more effectively to the scenarios with most favored conditions for your life creativity. Try to understand that the main reason of some unpleasant things that still happen in your life is not that you are so bad or unworthy of having a better life, but rather that you are too afraid of all complications and that you dramatize and fear almost every trouble or even every ordinary event that happens in your life. And your only wish is to escape from such situations as soon as possible. But the more you are afraid of them, and the more you reject them and protect yourself against them, the thicker the wall of unfavorable conditions and circumstances is around you, which makes you constantly feel stressed, always waiting for some bad things to happen and looking in advance for escape ways from all sorts of troubles. Thus you more thoroughly shut yourself away both from life with its eternal injustice and from people with their cares, excessive demands, and constant complaints against you. Relying on your true thoughts and feelings rather than on those which you trickily fabricate in any situation for the sake of your own profit, You must try to make each decision using not cold calculation of limited logic and morbid cynicism of self-interested analysis, but rather a powerful and generous charge of positive feelings and genuine sincerity, and a promise of heartfelt truth and spiritual devotion. And don't think how other people will appreciate your impulse of feelings. Don't take into account their personal opinion in this respect. Always, when your intuitive inner state urges you to respond with love, altruism, and highly intellectual motivations to any proposal of the outer reality, don't look at any opinions of others, trying to find their support or approval. If you always act like that, your every decision will become as close as possible to the deep essence of high purpose of your life that is potentially present in every moment of your eternal existence. Such states that involve your high feelings and high intellect nullify any possible manifestations of all sorts of dramatic events, including the most authentic dates of the end of the world in your personal life.